We'll now go into a little bit on graphing. So let's start with actually defining really the parts of a graph. So here we have some axes, and our horizontal axis is always the x-axis. And the vertical axis is always the y-axis. And then they meet in the origin. In addition, these axes actually break our plane up into 4 pieces. These 4 pieces are known as quadrants. And we just call them 1, 2, 3, and 4, moving counterclockwise. Quadrants are typically denoted with these Roman numerals, but all it tells us is exactly where we're at. And in general, if we want to consider an ordered pair, ordered pairs can be put on these graphs alphabetically, x and then y. X is horizontal and y is vertical. So essentially this tells us exactly how far over we need to go, which in this case is 4, and how far either up or down we need to go, which in this case we're going to go down -3. So I have my point 4, -3. So let's look at this a little bit more. Let's consider these 6 ordered pairs, and we want to graph them. Like I said, we always have x and y. We always move horizontally and then vertically. So the first one, we always start at the origin. We're going to move over 3 and then up 2 to this point here. And we can see, since that is in the first quadrant, I'm just going to put a little 1 next to it. Our next point, our third point, 4, -3, we're now going to move left or right 4, and negative means we're going to move down 3 to this point here. We can notice that that one's actually in quadrant 4. Our next point, -1, -4. -1 means we're moving left, and then -4 means we're moving down to this point here. We can see that one's in quadrant 3. Our next point is 0, 2. 0 means we move left or right 0, and then just move straight up by 2. It's this point here, which is actually on the y-axis. Our last point says we move right 2 and up 0. So it's right here on the x-axis. And at this point we may be able to start to notice some patterns that in general are going to be true. Things in quadrant 1 will always both be positive. Quadrant 2 will always be negative and positive. Quadrant 3 are both negative. Quadrant 4 is a positive and a negative. Our axes, if x is 0, we're on the y-axis, and if y is 0, we're on the x-axis. And while you don't have to necessarily remember these, they can be nice, easy tricks to help you remember, to just notice that it is just sign changes on all of this. I'm now going to look at actually graphing an equation, y equal to x squared. One of the easy ways to do this is to just make a table and pick some numbers for x. It helps to pick both positive and negative numbers. And then we're going to have to figure out what y is. And we know that y is x squared. So -3 squared is 9. -2 squared is 4. -1 squared is 1. 0 squared, 1 squared, 2 squared, and 3 squared. And now we have a set of ordered pairs that we can graph. We have -3, 9, which will be about here. We have -2, 4, -1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 4, and 3, 9. And from there, all we have to do is connect our dots. And we have the graph. What about this one? Y equal to x minus 3. Well, we can pick some numbers for x once again. -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and stick them in. This time I'm supposed to be subtracting 3. -3 minus 3 is -6. -3 minus 3 is -5. -1 minus 3. 0 minus 3. 1 minus 3. 2 minus 3. And 3 minus 3. And once again, we can just plot these points. We can start with -3, -6. -2, -5. -1, -4. 0, -3. 1, -2. 2, -1. And 3, 0. And we can see that these actually lie very nicely along a straight line. So now we've graphed this line. And in general, a line is going to happen anytime we have something of this form, ax plus b. The key here is to realize that we don't have any powers for x like we did for our last example, or anything like that. It looks like the equations we solved before. We have something times x plus another number, or minus another number, and that's it. So this is the basic form of a line, and the easiest way to graph it is exactly what we just did. Pick some points for x, stick them in, and solve for y. I picked -3 to 3 because these are the most common, but ultimately you can pick whatever numbers you want. There may be some that are more convenient for you to pick. Generally, a right around 0 tends to result in some of the smaller number answers, so that's what we went with here.